In the 1930s, Soviet officials moved through Siberia, burning drums. Not weapons, drums. The people who owned them were arrested for a crime the state could barely name. They saw things the state could not control. Moscow declared the shaman extinct. Moscow was wrong. This is not ancient history. This is your story. There is a kind of person who has always been here. They go by different names in different centuries. The cunning woman, the hermit, the witness, the seer, the exile. The world has tried, more than once, to be rid of them. The world has never managed it. If you carry one of these patterns, you already know. Today we go to the edge of the firelight, where one figure has always stood. The shaman, the one who was never supposed to stay. The word itself comes from the Evenki people of Siberia, Shaman, often translated as the one who knows. But the figure is far older than the word, and far wider than Siberia. In the 1950s, the historian of religion Mircea Eliade gathered the evidence into a single book, Shamanism, Archaic Techniques of Ecstasy. What he found unsettled the neat maps of culture. The same figure appeared on every inhabited continent. Siberia, Mongolia, the Amazon basin, the Arctic Circle, the Kalahari. People separated by oceans with no contact and no shared language produced the same role, the same rituals, almost the same drum. As though something in the human pattern requires this figure, and grows one wherever humans gather. And here is the first strange thing. Nobody applied for the role. Across almost every recorded tradition, the shaman did not choose the calling. The calling chose them, and it arrived as an illness. Anthropologists came to name it the Initiatory Sickness. A young person would fall into fevers and visions. They felt too much, saw too much, could not close the door on things other people never noticed at all. The elders did not read this as malfunction. They read it as a summons, and tradition after tradition records the same warning. Refuse the call and the sickness deepens. The only cure for the calling is to answer it. If something in you flinched at that sentence, hold it. We are coming back for it. The shaman's work was crossing. The village lived in one world. The shaman travelled between the two. They went where the others could not go, and returned carrying what the others could not reach. Reading the weather of the unseen, retrieving what was lost, naming the sickness that had no name. Before a hunt, a migration, a marriage, or a war, the shaman was consulted. An entire community's survival ran through one person's perception. You know what that kind of weight does to a person. You have carried a version of it in rooms that never once said thank you. But look at where the shaman lived. Not at the centre of the camp, at the edge of it. Honoured and avoided in the same breath, needed and feared. The role demanded distance because a person who moves between worlds never fully belongs to either. The village kept its shaman close enough to consult and far enough to feel safe. That arrangement was not cruelty, it was design. The shaman was never supposed to stay inside the ordinary world. Their power depended on standing outside it. Then the modern world arrived and decided the shaman was finished. Missionaries called the ceremonies devilry and broke the drums. Colonial administrators outlawed the rites. The Soviet state sent its officials north, and the arrests began. Psychiatry finished the job politely. The initiatory sickness was renamed disorder, breakdown, instability. The summons became a symptom. By the middle of the 20th century, the civilized world had agreed. The shaman belonged to the past. The drums burned, ceremonies stopped. But a role that every human society independently produces does not die when you destroy its instruments. The pattern went underground, where it has always known how to survive, and it did not stay in the past. You recognize this. You have always recognized this. The sensitivity that arrived in you unasked, years before you had any container for it. The seeing that switches itself on in every room you enter. The strange gravity that pulls people to bring you their worst nights, and the equally strange way they keep their distance once the crisis has passed. Consulted and left out, needed and avoided, close enough to help, too far to belong. This is the shaman, the oldest human role there is, surfacing in you. And the edge of the camp was never the worst of it. The worst of it is what you have done to yourself for years, trying to drag your tent into the middle of the village, trying to be ordinary inside a role that was never supposed to stay inside the ordinary world. Every failed attempt at fitting in that you filed under something wrong with me was the pattern holding its shape while you fought it. None of this is a supernatural claim. What the Evenki called the shaman, Carl Jung recognized as an archetype, a pattern in human consciousness that repeats across cultures and time. What tradition called crossing between worlds, modern psychology maps as introverted intuition. Nigh-dominant cognition, drawing up material from the unconscious that others cannot reach by effort or argument. The pattern is the same. Only the language has changed. So look at what you have actually inherited. Start with the sickness. Every Sigma INFJ I've known carries at least one season they privately call their breakdown. The year everything got too loud. The stretch where feeling everything nearly finished them. Tradition would not have called that your malfunction. Tradition would have called it your initiation. Capacity arrived before the container was built. You were not breaking. You were being summoned in a century that had burned the instructions. The inheritance runs both ways, though. Gift and wound arrive together, and the shadow of this pattern is precise. It fails in two directions. The first is refusal. You feel the call and shut the door on it. You flatten yourself into a villager, take the safe role, and keep the sight switched off. And the old warning holds. The refused calling does not go quiet. It deepens. It comes back as numbness, as depression, as the sense of sleepwalking through a life that fits everyone but you. The second failure is the opposite. You cross the threshold and never come back. Permanent withdrawal. Seeing everything, serving no one. The shaman who never returns from the crossing ceases to be a shaman. They become a ghost at the edge of the camp. If you have lived in either of these rooms, you are not failing. You are holding an inheritance nobody had named for you. Naming it is where the tending begins. And the historical shamans left you one more thing. Survival knowledge. Through every purge, every empire, every century that wanted them gone, the ones who endured survived the same way. Function. The village spared what the village needed. Your sight becomes safe the moment it becomes useful. Not performed, not explained to people who will only fear it. Applied. The crossing was never the point. The return was. You go where others cannot go, and you come back carrying something, and you put it into hands that need it. That is the whole role. That has always been the whole role. So stop apologizing for the placement. You are not a villager who failed at belonging. You are the figure every human society grows, and no empire has managed to erase. The drums can be burned. The role cannot. It is sitting at a screen right now, watching this video, deciding what to do with its sight. If this has landed somewhere it needed to land, then you may already know what comes next. There are 7 Sigma INFJ archetypes, and each one carries a different gift, a different burden, a different mythic responsibility. The link in the description will take you to a free assessment that reveals yours. It takes about 3 minutes. The answer tends to land harder than people expect. And if you want to keep walking these threads with me, into the deeper psychology of the Sigma INFJ, into the archetypes the world has forgotten how to name, subscribe. There are far older and stranger things still to uncover until next time. Find your power, know your myth,